Chelsea 2, Arsenal 2. Welcome to Monday Reaction with Roni. Sport across the world. Rugby World Cup, Cricket World Cup is on, and loads of people having a huge amount of sport to watch. The Arsenal were back in the Premier League, and a very disappointing display yet again after international break. I know there's other teams as well that tends to struggle after international breaks, but unfortunately Arsenal were one of, actually none of the main competitors lost other than Arsenal drawing. So a very disappointing result for Arsenal. We were very poor, 2-0 down. You can obviously analyze both goals and think that there's an element of luck in it, but obviously Chelsea definitely were the better team on the day. They weren't great. Arsenal were very, very poor, and even Declan Rice said that he felt that was the worst performance so far from Arsenal this season. Once again, very scratchy at times, giving the ball away loads amount of times, and then also the referee also not being great. So I do, first of all, respect the fact that Chelsea were better on the day. They weren't great, so that tells you that the quality of the game wasn't fantastic. But Cole Palmer, that was a terrible tackle. And once again, the in some games, some cards are being given, and then in other games not. So for the second consecutive game, a terrible tackle from an opposition player not being rewarded. And we have to accept that one. Obviously, even at the end, Nketiah right at the end could have scored obviously everything against the run of play, and I really want to obviously commend Arsenal for the fight back. I thought they were able to control large parts of the second half. They gave Chelsea all sorts of problems, and then once again there's quite a few people that felt Havertz again playing as the 9 up front, especially away from home. He did really well, especially winning most of his duels. He won everything in the air, more than any aerial battles that Arsenal won in the entire game. He won all his battles in the air. So we're going to have to really think about how we're going to go about this. Thomas Partey again, I don't know if there's still issues with him. Obviously, it was a different type of a game. Jorginho, Odegaard, and Declan Rice was the midfield. I thought it didn't work that well, even though Rice had a decent game, and he was once again given the man of the match. What a goal that was from him. But I thought it was an extremely disappointing display. We had, for the first time, our main front three. I think I read something of 14 minutes as a three together so far this season, and nothing much really happened there. And then obviously sloppiness as well, from defense, from midfield as well. The pressing wasn't really there like it used to be. So a very scratchy performance once again after international break for Arsenal, and we were obviously nowhere near our levels of Manchester City. And once again, it just seems like we're not quite getting the balance right from being compact in defense, being able to control games, and also having that attacking ability. We're just not creating the chances that we created last season, and that's obviously due to structural changes from Arteta. But yeah, it's very disappointing again, because we now beat Man City. We wanted to push on. I felt the international break came at the right time, because we had loads of players that has niggles, the likes of Trossard, Saka, both of them involved in goals. Saka with the assist, Trossard with a goal, and key players, and they are probably still not really there. So you can only hope that you can see the league is much tougher this year. There's loads of teams that's really performing well. So every game seemingly, other than when you play the really lower teams, is going to be a real battle to get 3 points. So that's a good thing on the one end, because your rivals won't have easy games. However, it just doesn't seem like it's working really for Arsenal. We are still undefeated, so let's just put that point there. Haven't looked great yet, and I'm really hoping that the second half of the season we are really going to explode. I don't know what we can do in January, but obviously it's shown that our substitutes have done the job in most of the games. So that means that the squad is better. When you put it down on paper, the squad is definitely better. But how many of these players are 100% at the moment? Thomas Partey wasn't even considered. I know the game was probably Well, it was for him because we needed that control with the ball. We needed accuracy in our passing. So for some reason, Arteta felt that he couldn't use him, and that has got to do with fitness as well. And then Jorginho sloppy, Zinchenko sloppy. So again, key experienced players that we need, very sloppy. However, you turn that around and you say on a day that Arsenal maybe could have lost maybe by a couple of goals, we could even have snatched it at the end. So. Yeah, once again, a lot of talk about certain decisions in the game. Obviously, the Palmer decision. So, accepting that we weren't good on the day, we have to also dissect the decisions. Palmer, I felt, should have been sent off because of other occasions in the season where other players have been sent off for less. And then also the penalty situation. So on the one hand, the letter of the rule states that probably should be a penalty. But if you just look at it now, in terms of the hand position and they talk about the unnatural position of the hands of Saliba. They're talking about having to use his hands to jump. So that's also the other thing. So I don't know. The rule says obviously that would eventually, or that is a penalty. But then again, it's policed differently by different referees. On another day, that's maybe then not given. I thought it was a penalty, so I didn't have too much of a problem with that. But if you really dissect everything, he needs to jump. He needs to be able to use his hands to be able to move, and the header obviously. In difficult conditions for both sides, let's be fair, because both goalkeepers made mistakes in the game. So you kind of have to accept that. On other occasions, with the sloppiness, maybe Chelsea could have used of the other opportunities to score. Let's say if the penalty maybe wasn't given, so they were probably deservedly ahead. And then obviously in the second half, Arsenal first of all in the first half didn't really create much, didn't really win their duels, didn't give them much problems. And then obviously in the second half, a very poor goal to concede. Now, first of all, I do worry about David Raya. But then again, if you now go and analyse certain aspects, he's in a aggressive position for a goalkeeper to be able to attack crosses and those type of things. And if you analyse most of his performances, he's basically always in that position. And it was a cross that it was basically a fluke goal from Mudryk. And it just had to be him to score. A player that we've obviously courted, and he said that he wanted to come to Arsenal. I don't think that it was necessarily Arsenal, but more the Premier League, getting away from Shakhtar Donetsk. But just now again, all these teams building up. You've got him on international duties, Zinchenko in his ear, and you've got fans taking pictures with him saying London is red and all those type of things. So you bring that out, and obviously he didn't have a great game, but he still scored the goal. 2-0 to Chelsea, and then Arsenal were able to get a little bit of a foothold in the game. And a mistake obviously from Sanchez, the Chelsea goalkeeper, and a fantastic goal from Declan Rice. It's very easy to miss those chances as well. The likes of Jesus and Nketiah, I'm sure they would have missed it. So it was a very difficult chance. So even though there was no one in goal, it was a very good shot from Declan Rice. Obviously the keeper in no man's land, and open goal, and 2-1. And then obviously Arsenal started pushing, and you have to give them credit. Despite the poor performance on the day, despite giving the ball away numerous amounts of times, they kept on fighting, and they were able to get a point out of this game with a fantastic assist from Saka. I know some of the goalkeeping fundis out there felt that Sanchez could have done better, especially with a cross, but then a very good goal from Trossard. Once again, he's coming up. His performances over 90 minutes this season has not been great. I'm referring to Trossard. However, he's got loads of key goals so far this season. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Tuesday. So 2-2, I personally was happy with that result because obviously it could have been a comfortable loss. I thought at 2-0 it was going to be a 3-0 situation or a 3-1 situation. So I'm very happy to take that point. Very disappointing, obviously, if you holistically look at it again. You've got Liverpool, obviously, there and thereabouts, and then obviously Man City, I think, on goal difference. I think I might be right or I might be wrong. I haven't looked at the log. But they are currently top again. So despite losing to the so-called title-chasing rivals, they are now again back on top despite that loss 2 weeks ago. So it just shows you how things can change very, very quickly. With regards to upcoming things for Arsenal, so for the rest of this month, I think there's only 2 more games to go. And obviously the third game in this little run is at the beginning of November. So it's actually quite tough games coming up. We've got Sheffield United on Saturday. Is it Saturday? Yes, it should be Saturday. Yeah, the normal 3 o'clock UK kickoffs, which is 4 o'clock in South Africa. However, we've got a very difficult game at the Sanchez Pizjuan Stadium on Tuesday against Sergio Ramos's Sevilla. And I watched some snippets, and it looked like they had quite a few opportunities against Real Madrid. They played Saturday evening against Real Madrid at the Sanchez Pizjuan, so they're going to be a problem. They obviously, if you want to look at new manager bounce, they got a new manager in, and obviously the Real Madrid game was their new manager, and they looked really good. They looked much better than in previous games. So that's going to be a really tough game. I'm confident that Arsenal can get the job done and maybe scraping a 2-1 win or so. It's going to be vital for us to, if we can get a win, then we looking good, because then we have 2 home games to try and finish off the group. So we need to, obviously, at worst, get a point, but we need to go for the win. We need to try and get better, especially in Europe under Arteta, which has been very poor. So very, very big game Tuesday evening against Sevilla. It's going to be really tough. They're really good in Europe, and especially against English teams, they do well, Sevilla. So I'm looking forward to that one. It's going to be a really, really crazy high-tempo game, I feel. And could be a high-scoring game. Hopefully, there's no injury issues. The likes of Vieira didn't even make the squad. So Vieira, El Neni, Cedric, you can say what you want about the quality. However, it's interesting that they are not there, and they're not injured. They actually couldn't make the squad because of everybody actually being there. So it's basically just Timber at this moment in time that's not there. Hopefully, the likes of Martinelli, Saka, Trossard, these are all people that have had a little bit of bumps in the last couple of weeks. So hopefully they can start getting to their standard, because we're going to need a big performance on Tuesday. So Sevilla Tuesday away, and then we're back at the Emirates next Saturday against Sheffield United. So once again, I think Man United's playing Man City. Not that you expect Man United to get anything against City, but they do well. They did beat Man City last season at Old Trafford, so they do well against Man City sometimes. And then I'm not entirely sure Liverpool's playing. They would be away. So, and then Newcastle and Aston Villa are looking really good. And just a reminder that we are playing West Ham away in the Carabao Cup, and then Newcastle United away to start November. That's going to be very difficult. The way we are playing and the way Newcastle are playing, it's going to be very difficult to get anything at St. James's Park, even though we won there last season against all expectations. So we're going to wait and see how it goes. Yeah, 2-2 draw, very disappointing display from Arsenal, but they got out of there with a point, and sometimes that is something that you have to look at when you are not playing well. But there are bad signs in the team, so let's change those signs. It has been after international break. We tend to not do well. We had loads of people that's just coming back from injury, so they are not quite sharp yet, so that's also another thing. And then you have to give credit to the opposition. Pochettino setting up Chelsea in a good way, and they are improving as a team. They weren't great, so Arsenal could still, even with a very poor performance, have won that game, especially if they were a little bit earlier in terms of the changes up front. However, I will take a point and run. We were that bad. Come on, you Gunners.
Cadence.